Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2C TV. This is your global news channel. I'm Maya 2C, and the ceasefire talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic have reached the deadlock as expected. We've had three rounds of talks, all in one day. Absolute chaos over the last few hours. And some people were expecting an easy agreement to come to place. I don't know how they thought that, but we're going to give you guys a live coverage of these so-called negotiations. We also have our live feed from Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, as the fourth round of negotiations have now just been announced. 3 rounds, all within a few hours, have already been done. They can't reach a deal. It's completely chaotic. Let me give you guys a summary first of what you should expect from this live stream. Firstly, we had multiple rounds that started since early this afternoon in Pakistan. Following that, we had some major issues between Hezbollah and Israel. Despite the fact that a lot of people have been asking for de-escalation between the Israelis and Hezbollah terrorists, well, I'm afraid Hezbollah continues to attack Israel. We're going to show you some videos of also the IDF retaliation in southern Lebanon. Having said that, Uganda, I can't take this one seriously because this is actually escalating very fast. The army chief of Uganda is now fully prepared to join the war in the Middle East to defend and support their allies in Israel. He's going to be visiting Israel soon to discuss alliance with the Israelis. Having said that, over the last few hours, during the actual so-called negotiations between the US and the Islamic Republic, things are not going too well for the IRGC. So they have decided to send in, last minute, extra personnel from Iran to Pakistan because they do not trust their own representatives. The Speaker of Parliament, Ghalibaf, and the Foreign Minister, IRGC, are leading these talks, allegedly, but they also have a massive entourage of the rest of the IRGC bullies who are behind the scenes calling the shots. So this is a summary of what you should expect. Complete mess of a situation for the Islamic Republic. First, let's give you guys the updates on what happened since this morning in Islamabad. The US delegation, so you had the US Vice President J.D. Vance, we had Steve Witkoff, the chief negotiator, and also Jared Kushner, the White House envoy, arriving in Islamabad. The IRGC said, this is fascinating, when the talks started, the IRGC announced that the United States have surrendered. They have agreed to release our frozen assets. Basically, all the money that's been frozen by the Americans, somehow it was announced that the Americans have surrendered and they're going to be releasing it. The White House then came out and said the reports regarding the approval to release Iranian assets are false claims. The Islamic Republic is drunk and it needs to go home. Now, this last bit was a slight paraphrasing by my side, but yeah, we don't know how they came up with that. They're just creating their own false reality at this point. But there are some people who continue to fall for the propaganda coming from the Islamic Republic, which is kind of interesting, but it's a good test of basic IQ. If anybody falls for this propaganda on a regular basis, you know they are low IQ and you don't need them in your life. Having said that, the Islamic Republic also issued a formal submission. This is fascinating. Complete mess of a situation. 4 red lines from the IRGC side for the so-called negotiations. Number 1, full authority over the Strait of Hormuz to be under the IRGC control. Nope. Number 2, payment of war reparations. They want reparations like Black Lives Matter. Number 3, unfreezing of all blocked Iranian financial assets, which is interesting because they said the Americans already agreed to it, but they forgot that they said that. And number 4, securing a comprehensive regional ceasefire. That also includes basically Israel and Lebanon. So while this was going on, the talks reached a bit of a stalemate over the last few hours over one issue. Apart from all the other issues, obviously, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is now being used by the Americans as a massive stick. It's ironic because the Strait of Hormuz was being used by the IRGC during the actual war for about 40 days as a stick. The Islamic Republic were able to basically suffocate the global commerce by doing that. Having said that, now the tables have turned. The IRGC continue to insist that they will retain full authority over the Strait of Hormuz, and they will reject any sort of joint control proposal that the Americans might come up with. Now, before we give you guys some more details of what is happening in the circus of Islamabad in Pakistan, let's also quickly go to the other parts, because this is not just the war in Iran, this is the regional war across the Middle East. While we have a lot of people calling for de-escalation, well, the IRGC's Hezbollah wing in Lebanon continue to launch attacks against Israel. Well, the IRGC, the Israeli Defense Forces are now hitting back. Hezbollah fighters have been engaging over the last few hours in southern Lebanon in huge clashes with the IDF in the city of Bin Jabal. Now, let's quickly go and have a look at that from earlier. Everything's peaceful, as you can see. Now, next video, just a quick thing, actually, that's the one after. Let's quickly go to also Tyre in southern Lebanon, see what happened. There we go, that's the IDF fighting back. Just a quick heads up, the next clip is from late afternoon today, as one of the Hezbollah drones were completely blown out of the sky in Israel, northern Israel. But quick heads up, if you are watching from Israel or in the Middle East in general, this video will contain sound of sirens, so you might want to turn it down slightly. Ready? Look at that drone. Just wait for it. Keep watching it. Good shot, right? Successful shot by the Israeli defense. Having said that, actually, let me just quickly go to Pakistan. We do have our live feed, and I'm going to give you guys some more information about these ongoing talks, if we could call it that. 3 rounds failed miserably. Herman says, so much for regime change. Regime change? Well, regime change is not happening based on airstrikes. Regime change can only happen on the ground by the Iranian people, and obviously they can't do it during the war. They can only start, if they want to do it, they can only do it after the war has ended. You can't change regime using airstrikes. Obviously, this, as we always say, take what President Trump says not literally, but seriously in terms of the wording he uses. Also, technically, there has been change in the regime. It's not regime change, but there is a change in the regime because, as we've been saying, the Ayatollahs are no longer in charge of running Iran. It's now the IRGC. The IRGC have taken full control of Iran, and that is a massive change in the regime, the system that we have currently in that country. My IRGC must surrender. Well, they're not going to do that. that would be a terrible idea for them. They just want to be martyred instead. William says, Tusi, please be prepared to be disappointed by Pahlavi. Why would I be disappointed? He's just raising money so he can afford to continue to pay taxes in California. He's not in California, if you think he's in California. He doesn't live there. If you think he's mad enough to go back to that bunch of ram raiders after... So William, you clearly are getting your limited information from crazy people on the internet. And that's the whole problem with social media. Obviously, there's a trend that, people will say one thing. For example, they will bring out, if a few people start saying this, it's not white, this is blue. And then everybody will say it's blue. We have sheep mentality. Eventually, there will be some other people who don't even know what this is. They're like, oh yes, I've been hearing this is actually blue, it's not white. And then they repeat. They all become parrots. We call this NPC because everybody becomes a parrot. People who don't know anything about the reality of this, which is actually white, they say it's blue. They don't actually say, but no, because I heard it from someone. They have the confidence at that point because they've been receiving the lies. They don't even know that they don't know. Right? It's the opposite of Candace Owens. I don't know, no, but I know. They've been told this so many times. They've been repeating the same lie that this is blue, that they actually believe, that they came up with the information. That's the fascinating thing about sheep mentality, NPC mentality online. People hear same attack lines, insults. For example, Reza Pahlavi did this, or Reza Pahlavi did that, or Trump did this, Trump that. Somebody will start it and eventually it becomes a snowball, and people who are retarded, like the last guy, would believe it, and they actually think they came up with the research themselves. Beautiful, right? It's the beauty of humanity. The human brain could also backfire at times. Demands should be unconditional surrender of Iran. PC says Pahlavi barmigarde, as in will return home. Javid Shah. PS, blessings and hope your dads stay safe, says William. Maya, do you agree that the late Ayatollah was as bad as the man whose name I will not speak, who took over Germany in January 1933? You mean Adolf, the failed painter, vegetarian painter? As bad? I don't understand why people are obsessed with comparing things and individuals and whatever history, because it doesn't really work that way. It's like, for example, comparing Adolf to Joseph Stalin. Like, well, you could compare it if you want to, but they're also very different characters. They have different motives and different crazy violence in their brain. Let's quickly go back to the rest of the reports from the negotiations. Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Parliament in the Islamic Republic, and J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, for the first time, met in person directly and shook hands. The trilateral talks with Pakistan involved direct and indirect talks at the same time. I'm not kidding. This is literally what was reported. So you got Pakistan in the middle. You got the Islamic Republic terrorists, and you got the Americans. All three of them, usually, in a normal situation, you either have two sides talking directly, or in the case of the Islamic Republic side and the Americans, in the past, they do it indirectly. They basically have Oman or Qatar or whoever going back and forth between the two rooms to deliver messages. That's indirect talks. In this case, we've had today, and indirect talks creates problems because miscommunication, slowdown, delays, nonsense, right? We've had direct and indirect talks at the same time. I know that makes absolutely no sense, but not really sure how that's going to go. But 3 rounds so far completely failed. Now they're doing the final 4th round as we speak. At least 5 more Iranian planes have now landed in Islamabad over the last few hours. More IRGC officials have decided to join these talks last minute because they do not trust their own IRGC representatives, as I said earlier. The split inside the regime is growing so much that they are changing the plans last minute. The whole arrangement of the board completely changed. Nobody knows who's calling the shots from the Islamic Republic. They don't even know who's calling the shots. Ghalibaf could say one thing, the foreign minister Araghchi could say one thing, but are they actually representing the rest of the Islamic Republic? No, of course not. Because if they come up with anything, the rest of the nutters in Iran will kill them. If they sign a deal, it's the end of the Islamic Republic. Now we're all, people who have slightly some awareness, we all want the IRGC to sign a deal. This time, not 2 months ago, not during those so-called nuclear talks. The moment, if they do, in a very stupid way, decide, these idiots who are in Islamabad, sign a deal, it's the end of the Islamic Republic. But I don't think they're that stupid. So they're going to stall and they're going to find a way to kick off and then basically just drag on the actual conflict directly. But if they were smart enough, they would try and basically blame it on somebody else. It's a very difficult situation right now for them because before, signing a deal would have helped them in previous talks. In this situation, signing a deal will be the end. The split is growing massively. There is no unity inside the regime anymore because there is no central leadership. At least until recently, they had Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. While he was alive, everybody had to obey. Everybody had to listen because it's a cult of personality. Well, it was a cult of personality, and that has now collapsed. Now, meanwhile, the issue around the Strait of Hormuz, which has unnecessarily become a very, very easy stick for the Americans to now use. The IRGC Navy tonight warned that any military vessel, that includes the Americans, attempting to cross the strait will now face a decisive response. So they're not opening anything. They have now claimed also full control of the Strait of Hormuz, even though the IRGC Navy is limited in power. They now say only merchant vessels who follow our regulations and pay us ransom, they could cross the Strait of Hormuz. But obviously any foreign warship will get hit. Fair enough. But the problem with this is that they're not really able to actually control the Strait of Hormuz because they don't have the naval assets to do that. As I've been saying, all they have is a few idiots in mainland Iran and in the tiny islands around it launching missiles or threaten to launch missiles and drones at any vessel that crosses without permission. Now that is by itself is a huge escalation if they ever do that. Will they do that? Well, if they actually refuse to sign the surrender deal, they're going to have to, because that's the only other option that they have left. Now, it is now past, well, it's in the early hours of morning in Islamabad. Those guys are still there. Both sides are still in Pakistan. A lot of people thought that today was going to be the first round of talks because it's going to be the first day, first round, like previously. But no, everything is going to get done in the next, basically, today and tomorrow. We didn't just have one round. We had 3 rounds of talks already, today and tonight. And now we're going to have the 4th round, which is now the early hours of Sunday, the 12th of April. They're now going to have the final 4th round. They might even have a tiny 5th round, but basically they've said that today, Sunday, the 12th of April, is the final attempt. Now, there was a concern because this time round, the IRGC side, the propaganda side, they are the ones who keep saying nothing is going well. And I'm going to show you what President Trump said a couple of hours ago. But they are saying, the sources in Tehran are saying, well, I've told their favorite news network, CNN, that the Americans have made unacceptable demands and about the Strait of Hormuz and also several other issues. So it's not just about the Strait of Hormuz. The media's reporting in Iran is also the same. Mehr News in Iran has reported that the US has made excessive demands, and the IRIB, the Islamic Republic state media, have also said that the Americans are taking an overzealous approach in these rounds of talks, and we don't see any hope. The Americans are not really giving us much in terms of any optimism or anything like that. President Trump, which I'll show you in a second, what he said was basically, it doesn't matter if we get a deal or not, we're still going to open the Strait of Hormuz. One way or another, we're still going to win. This is just a good opportunity for the IRGC to find a way out. If they don't want to, then fine. We'll just go back to normal. On that issue, we now do have confirmation that the Americans, more refueling tankers from the American side, have now landed at the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv. So we have, let me show you the video, dozens of refueling tankers, KC-135s and KC-46As, who are now on the runway of Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. When the refueling tankers are getting ready, you know that the other Air Force assets are also getting ready. But they're not the only things that are getting ready. In case you don't know, Uganda have been quite outspoken over the last couple of weeks. The army chief in Uganda, General Kainerugaba, has confirmed that he is now on his way to Tel Aviv to meet with what he calls our Israeli brothers. Now, Uganda have now offered extra support, militarily as well, to send help to the Middle East to help their allies, Israel, to defeat the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now, the thing about this is that there is no confirmation by the Americans that they're going to accept this help. Having said that, there could be something that could be done, at least against Hezbollah in Lebanon. There are going to be talks between the Israeli government and the Lebanese government in order to push the Lebanese military to disarm Hezbollah. If Israel and Lebanon work together properly, then obviously they can disarm Hezbollah together. But the Lebanese government need that extra support because on their own they seem quite incompetent. They have not been able to do it over the last year and a half as they have been promising to do. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of Israel also made a speech, a full address to the nation earlier tonight. This is what he said. Dear citizens of Israel, my dear brothers and sisters, the term of the campaign has come to an end, but it is already clear that we have historical achievements. I want to remember where we were. Iran tried to catch us off guard. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Assad regime in Syria, the militias in Iraq, the foreigners, obviously the Houthis in Yemen, and the Islamic Republic themselves. They wanted to subdue us, and we are now destroying them. They threatened us with destruction, and now they are fighting to survive. We have defeated them. We still have a lot to do, and I will explain this later, but I want to start with Iran itself. With the head of the organization, I have dedicated a significant part of my life to preventing one thing, that is, its terrorist regime will achieve a nuclear weapon. I have spoken about this at the Congress, the UN, and in various parliaments, but the world has not heard. Many have said that it is not that terrible. I have even heard them within us, and I, as the Prime Minister of Israel, could not accept this. We were the first to break the barrier of fear operating in Iran itself. If I had told you a year ago that our pilots would fly in Iran, who would have actually believed that they could have total control of the skies, and the United States would fly alongside us, shoulder to shoulder, for nearly 40 days? Who would have believed it? But all of this happened because we initiated, we acted, we attacked. Iran was very close to obtaining nuclear weapons and the ability to produce thousands and thousands of missiles, two existential threats we were determined to remove. We eliminated 12 of their top nuclear scientists. We attacked their nuclear facilities together with our American friends. We also attacked thousands of missiles and hundreds of launchers. Later, we eliminated 8 more nuclear scientists, destroyed the reactor in Iraq, destroyed the centrifuge systems and the uranium production plant. We reached a point where Iran does not have a single active enrichment plant. We also weakened the regime to its lowest level since it was established 47 years ago. We eliminated senior leadership across the regime, struck Revolutionary Guard's infrastructure, and targeted their economic and military capabilities. Iran is no longer the same Iran, and Israel is no longer the same Israel. They who dared to destroy us are now fighting for their own survival. In Gaza, we control more than 50% of the territory. In Lebanon, we destroyed the majority of a 150,000 missile arsenal in 6 hours and prevented infiltration plans into the Galilee. We continue to fight Hezbollah and restore security to the north. As a result of this strength, Lebanon has approached us multiple times to begin direct peace talks, something that has not happened in history. Many countries are now turning to us and to the United States for cooperation. Israel is stronger than ever, small in size, but huge in spirit and determination. These are historic achievements. We bombed the nuclear weapons, we bombed the missiles, we bombed the regime. Together with the United States, we have changed the balance of power. There is still a long way to go, but with our brave soldiers, our fallen heroes, and the strength of our people, we will continue. Now, the last part of the statement was the most important thing. There is still more work to do, and we will continue, said the Prime Minister. Now, let's go to President Trump. About an hour ago, a couple of hours ago, as he was about to get on Air Force One. Let's see what he had to say about these talks.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of reports. They've been meeting for many hours, as you probably have noticed. We'll see what happens. Look, regardless, we win. Regardless what happens, we win. We've totally defeated that country. And so let's see what happens. Maybe they make a deal, maybe they don't. From the standpoint of America, we win. One other thing that's happening is that boats are sailing up and heading out to our country. Big, beautiful tankers, and we're loading them up with oil and gas and everything else. And it's a pretty beautiful thing to see.
What about Iran's assets in other countries?
We're going to see what happens. We're in very deep negotiations with Iran. We win regardless. We've defeated them militarily. They've dropped a couple of water mines, you call them water mines, in the boat. We've defeated all of their water boats too. Their Navy has gone 158 ships. They have 28 water droppers, mine droppers they call them. All of them are sunk. They probably have a couple of mines in the water. We have minesweepers out there. We're sweeping the strait. In addition to that, we're negotiating. Whether we make a deal or not makes no difference to me. The reason is because we've won. Whether you listen to the fake news or not, you know, it's amazing. Their credibility is down to 13%. The media credibility down to 13%. Think of it. We defeated their Navy. We defeated their Air Force. We defeated their anti-aircraft. We defeated their radar. We defeated their leaders. Their leaders are all dead. And now all we do is we'll open up the strait, even though we don't use it, because we have a lot of other countries in the world that do use it that are either afraid or weak or cheap. I don't know what it is, but we were not helped by NATO, that I can tell you.
Have you
How do you know that? Why do you say that? Why do you say that? You don't know anything. Who are you with? Who are you with?
NBC News, Julie Serkin.
ABC?
NBC.
Well, that's fake news. Let me just tell you, we win, no matter what. We've defeated their military. They have no Navy. 158 ships are underwater, undersea. All of their minesweepers and all of their, they call them mine droppers. Can you imagine? A country has 28 mine droppers. You think that's nice? With all of that being said, they're all defeated, by the way. They're all at the bottom of the sea. Now, with all of that, they have no Navy. They have no radar. They have no Air Force. Their leaders are all dead. Khomeini is gone. For many years, he ruled. He's gone. With all of that, let's see what happens. But from my standpoint, I don't care. Thank you.
China is preparing to ship weapons to Iran.
Well, if China does that, China's going to have big problems, okay?
That was a big one at the end. Yeah, if China, the warning from the president is that if China continues to send weapons to the Islamic Republic, then they're going to have to face the consequences. Of course, they're going to be denying these allegations. Let's quickly go back to our live feed from the capital of Pakistan. The Israeli Defense Forces have now confirmed that Israel should expect a surge in attacks coming from Hezbollah in Lebanon within the next 48 hours. The Israelis have now confirmed that schools have now been cancelled in Israeli communities along the northern border, and everybody should remain on standby at least for the next day or two in the northern communities. Tasnim news agency of the Islamic Republic have also released a statement saying after several hours of no progress in the Islamabad negotiations due to the US excessive demands, some Western media are exaggerating the positive atmosphere of the negotiations. Currently, no significant change has been made in the negotiation situation, and despite initial progress in technical talks, the issue of the Strait of Hormuz and several other issues remain major points of disagreement. Iranian delegation is not in a hurry, and the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed as long as no common sense framework is reached. Okay, well, it seems like the IRGC don't want to take the bait, let's just say. Let me just check something. Hang on. Let me just... I think we're getting some breaking news. Okay, well, double check that. Okay, yeah, I think something's coming towards us shortly. Before we get to the rest of that, there is a few things in the reactions that we're getting. Inshallah, IRGC collapse. I love Shah. Want them in power, Maya. Will you run to be president of Iran? No. If they offered you a role, that's a terrible idea. Your political views will make Iran great again. No. Politics is bad, kids. Don't do politics. Why is the US making Pakistan a peace hero? You can't make Pakistan a peace hero when there is no peace. So Pakistan is not going to be a peace hero when you have to do peace first, make peace, for example, between the Islamic Republic and the Americans to claim to be a peace hero. And there's no peace. Ongoing negotiations. And Pakistan was a good option because obviously they are close to both the Islamic Republic and the Americans. Wait, are you still going to Israel for JNS? Unfortunately, JNS has now been postponed. So we are not going to Israel. I was supposed to speak at the JNS conference, which would have been now, I think. This week, actually. Yeah, in the next couple of days. It has been postponed because of the war. My praise for your dad. Thank you. Was that a cluster bomb from Israel? No, I don't believe so. We will get more clarification on that. Something was hit. Do you ever get tired of repeating yourself to the donuts that are not paying attention? Love your great show. Prayers for a free... It's my job. If they're going to be annoying, I'm going to have to repeat the same nonsense until they get it, even though they're never going to get it. You're right, Maya. Both men were very different, but both bad. Yeah, I mean, two people could be... This is about the comparison of Stalin, for example, to Hitler, or Khamenei to Stalin, or whatever. There's no point in trying to compare, unless you want to have a psychological debate about the different behaviors. Going around like children saying, well, both bad, that one is more bad, that one is less bad, it's just pointless. Well, yeah, bad people are bad people, you know that. If you want to have a philosophical, intellectual conversation about their behavior based on their brain, that is a more of an interesting conversation. I've had that conversation many times about which of these tyrants would have been clinically psycho, by psychopaths, or how many of them were basically damaged. Obviously, the difference in nature and nurture, and the environment as they grew up as children as well. But obviously, the brain flaw overall, psychological flaws. Why not the Trump Canal, 20 miles across the tip of the UAE, bypassing the Strait of Hormuz, paid for by oil tankers, tariff problem solved? That's not really how it works, because It's not a board game. The IRGC could launch drones at you wherever you are and hit you. IRGC can't find mines to open the strait and won't let other ships in the strait who can demine it. So default on ceasefire deal. No. So again, you are listening and believing what you're hearing in the establishment liberal media. Please stop doing that. Stop getting your news headlines from the media without actually verifying it. That propaganda came from the IRGC. The IRGC used it as an excuse earlier today. I didn't even bother reporting that part because it was just stupid. The IRGC said, we got a lot of mines and we don't know where they are. Meanwhile, we had literally Chinese vessels going through the Strait of Hormuz, straight from all different sides. They're just lying to everybody. And people are just believing it because CNN reported it. It's getting tiring. Stop believing what the IRGC are telling you. And when the CNN guys was BBC repeat it. Safe to say the public pronouncements of the IRGC are almost exactly the opposite of what their representatives are telling our negotiators behind closed doors. Yep. Been following you since for a while now. Do you have news about the sea mines in Hormuz? Yeah, we just explained that. Thanks and prayers for Iran. Yeah, it's the same as I mentioned. As an American, Trump says that we have so much oil and fuel, but our gas and fuel prices are so out of control. I don't understand. It's the market reaction, I'm afraid. Can you explain this? Love your show. Thank you. Yeah, it's the market reaction. That is the biggest problem, basically. So even though obviously the United States has a lot of natural resources itself, the problem is that you are living in a very multinational market-based situation where everything affects everything. So, for example, technically the Americans don't need the Strait of Hormuz, but anything that happens that affects the global economy, even the oil markets, because of the Strait of Hormuz, which is mostly used by the Europeans and the Chinese, it's still going to affect the market prices, the reactions. And that is the biggest issue. It's not necessarily fuel shortage, for example, or anything like that. That's why it's a short-term reaction. It's going to go back to normal eventually. So it's different to, for example, what Germany went through over the last few years, because Germany were essentially fully reliant on Russian gas and oil. And the moment the Russians invaded Ukraine, the Germans obviously came out against Russia. And then they were in a very awkward situation because for years and years, Angela Merkel in Germany made Germany addicted to Russian oil and gas instead of diversifying their portfolio. So when they couldn't get oil, for example, from Russia, gas from Russia, then it definitely affected the situation when it comes to effectively shortage, not proper shortage, but you know what I mean, in Germany. So that was a different situation compared to what's happening right now in America, which is a market reaction because of the global supply. He says, 50 years ago, a plane from Israel was hijacked and taken to Uganda. My late mum worked in the BBC News, and then I saw a movie on the raid. Okay. In your opinion, not hope, will the good people of Iran overthrow the IRGC and a peaceful democracy will prevail after the fighting stops? So, yeah, that's good that you clarified. It can only happen after. It's not really about after or before in that sense. It has to be when or if the IRGC infighting, the split inside the regime, grows so much that you can see the system in Iran basically collapsing from within. That's the moment that any people in any country, that's when they can take advantage of that and basically go cause chaos and take control. So there are different situations. You had in Iraq, initially, you had the strikes that happened in Baghdad in 2003. That almost immediately brought out the basic infrastructure of the Iraqi government. That also resulted in a lot of people taking to the streets. When the Americans, by the time when they were basically using ground forces, most of the system was collapsing already. There was a massive infighting inside the government because a lot of people decided to turn against Saddam Hussein. They realized Saddam is a loser, he's hiding in a hole. Where is the leader? We don't know. Let's go and take control. Similar situation, but slightly different. Libya. airstrikes. There were no boots on the ground. Just airstrikes technically resulted in regime change, but it wasn't the airstrikes that resulted in the regime change. Airstrikes resulted in the infighting inside Gaddafi's regime. You had a bunch of terrorists, different factions in Libya who took advantage alongside the rest of the Libyan population. They all took over, and basically their problem with Libya was that created chaos. It's now basically a failed state, got different factions controlling different parts. That's different. But it can only happen when the regime, in any situation, any government, any country, is basically falling from within. That's when you have to take to the streets and take control. That's the perfect opportunity. You can't do it if a regime is still united. So whether it's during the strikes or after the strikes are finished completely, the Iranian people can only take over once there is an opportunity, once there is no more unity. And right now, there is no unity, but there is still a few people at the top who are trying to hold on to power in Iran, and they are the ones who are still alive. If these talks fail, and if the fighting resumes, if the Americans and the Israelis decide to give the green light to take out the top of the leadership, there's a few people, about 6 people, then there is an opportunity. There's still no guarantee. Nothing is guaranteed. This is a fight. This is a war. Just like anything else when it comes to humanity, you got this side and that side. There's no guarantee. Like a football match, you don't know who's going to win. All sides will have to fight. One side will win. It could be the IRGC, it could be the Iranian people. You don't know. But they will have to fight. Yeah, anybody who gives you guarantees, like the IRGC will definitely win or the Iranian people will definitely take over the countries, it's a fight. You have to see who actually wins. Good morning again from Perth, Western Australia. Things seem to be coming along nicely as they're predicted for the revolution. It seems that we are in a dual power stage, heading for state weakening. Thanks for real. Absolutely. This is the perfect way of describing the current situation right now. This is the different phases and different stages. And right now we are seeing something that we've never seen before, because before Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, was alive for decades. And his central power was very strong. We had all these different factions in the Islamic Republic. Even though they hated each other, they had to follow the rules because they were all behind the supreme leader. He's gone. Not only he's gone, his son is nowhere to be seen. Nobody knows where the actual central command is supposed to be. So there are different factions, there are different leaders, different groups calling the shots. From the government side, from the IRGC military side, from the cleric side. Nobody is listening to the clerics anymore, the Ayatollahs. It's a bit of a mess. Isn't it possible that Mujtaba is defected? No, he's not even functioning as a human being anymore. And knows that everything was wrong. He doesn't want any of that anymore. So under some arrest or killed. No. The guy is a psychopath. He's not going to wake up to the truth. That theoretically, that's more likely to happen for the government figures. So, for example, hypothetically, obviously, it's not happening. For example, the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, or the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, it's more likely for those guys to sell out, for them to survive, than the son of the supreme leader, who doesn't even know he's the supreme leader right now because he's got brain injury. Trump, Daddy Trump, the greatest, says James. My humble response to your recent statements. Iranian Jews are forced by the IRGC to oppose Israel and the US, and they are not necessarily pro-Pallies. What? Also, the Torah forbids rebelling against the government. You do realize you cannot speak for every single Jew, just like how no one can speak for every single Iranian, every single Japanese person, every single Nigerian. There is actually, in fact, you will be surprised to hear there's a small minority of a sect of technically Jews who nobody else actually likes, who are actually pro-Palestine. You see them even in London, in New York, in Berlin, in Tehran, who fight against Israel. And if you don't know why, speak to anyone who is Jewish. They will explain it to you in a more simple. Actually, we've done a whole video about this on this channel previously. I don't know what it's called actually. It's also on 2CTV Plus, the origins of anti-Semitism. There was a whole explanation around that. There is that tiny minority. It's a very weird ideology that the state of Israel shouldn't exist, even though they're Jewish religiously. They're not really good Jews, but they do exist, I'm afraid. You will be surprised to know that they are actually pro-Palestinian. They're not pro-Palestinian in that sense. They're just very much against Israel. That's why they are pro-Palestinian. It's the enemy of an enemy nonsense. So some of them, obviously, a lot of the Jews in Iran have been forced to denounce Israel and Zionism. They just do it. But some of them are, in fact, supporters of the Islamic regime because they hate Israel. The only response why many Westerners are not standing with the Iranian people against their regime is because Iranians don't hate Israel and Jews. Exactly. And someone says Aisha was 6. Amazing. And someone says, yeah, they're in New York. No wonder Mamdani was voted in. But it's a small minority that nobody cares about. They can walk around like weirdos all the time. Let me just double check. Going back. There is an update coming in. Hang on. They're not going to start the 4th round now, are they? 1 second. Okay. All right, we'll get back to that in a second. Why is there a half-hour difference from Tehran? What's Tehran? And the rest of the world? Oh, is this supposed to say Tehran? Yeah, the time zones. Yeah, that's how the time zone is, I'm afraid, in Iran. And that primarily goes back to, it's because it's based on the 52.5, the East Meridian, which kind of aligns the country based on longitude instead of the full hour global time zone. So yeah, that's the time zone in Iran is not necessarily right now. Is obviously in Washington, is Eastern time is 7:32. London is 12:30. Well, now 33. Jerusalem 2:33. But then Iran is 3:03. It's the longitude that they use, and what that. Oh. I love how the media is mocking Trump for his failing talks with the same guy that the media just spent the last month mocking Trump for merely claiming he was in talks with him. And there's a lot of other reactions here. I was wondering, did you notice the US has spurred majority of Iran's conventional military leadership? We reported that on this channel a couple of days ago. They destroyed the IRGC leadership. If you reported on this yesterday, forgive me. Yes, no, we talked about this a couple of days ago. We showed you the list, the graph. The regular army in Iran has been untouched effectively. The IRGC military has been hit massively, but the army has remained. They're still alive, let's just say, and we all know why. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are not directly IRGC, and they need to stay alive, because if you want any level of stability after the potential full collapse of the system, you're going to need somebody from the army to maintain peace on the streets and order until obviously the transition and the referendum, change of constitution, and the first democratic elections again in Iran. All right, I'm just going to double check. I think we are now taking a break between the 3rd round and the 4th round of negotiations, and this will be the final, well, they say the final round, all happening within basically this weekend. And A senior White House official has now said that 15 hours and counting, the talks continue. Sunday, which is technically now, is now the final attempt. A lot of people thought that basically the first day will be the first round and the second round will be another day, but we've already had 3 and we're going to have the 4th one. They're going to take a nap now because it's quite late. It's around 4 o'clock, right? Sunday, the 12th of April, we will continue our live coverage on 2CTV to figure out whether the IRGC will sign the surrender deal or whether they will walk off. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya 2C and we are the media.